one. Hello and welcome to Harv's Tips Cheltenham Special Preview. I am joined with the master Rory Miller today. He's a knowledgeable bloke on the horses. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do two episodes. So the first episode is Tuesday and Wednesday's races. Just going to briefly go through the card, try and find some value, and just talk through the trends, sort of look at what you're looking for. But I'll just let Rory introduce himself. How are you doing, Rory? All right?
Yeah, doing very well. Thanks very much for having me on. I wouldn't go as far to say knowledgeable, but hopefully provide a bit of insight from someone who follows it every week as to perhaps some of how the races are going to go down. Maybe you can just lay out all the horses I tip up today.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Well, we're the bookies' favourite channel because we can't pick a winner, so hopefully we'll beat the trend. I've got the lucky hat ready. I'm going to put that on, mate. Got the lucky hat on, ready to
Fantastic. Go. There we go.
So, should we just jump straight into it? The Supreme Novices, the first one, 6 days away from the day of recording. You know what? Obviously, Shiskin won it last year with Nico and Nicky Henderson. You know, and that 6-1 winner to start the card. Have you got any diamonds in the rough to start the show off, mate?
I hate to start off without going for a diamond in the rough here, because I think we do have a very strong favourite in Appreciate It. Although I would say at the current price of kind of 2.5, roughly 2-1, I would have to be against him, given I don't think he is a proper 2-miler. I think he's asking for a bit longer, and at 7 years old, 7-year-olds have a very poor record in this race with only one win since its inception back in 1967, I believe. But that being said, Sky Bet every year do a first race of the festival, money back is cash. So one to take advantage of then certainly is putting a 10 into your account and having at least a roll of the dice. Is there anything that's jumping off the card to you, Harv?
Well, I mean, for me, obviously Appreciate It. Looking around, it's around 6-4. It'll probably go off even shorter, given what you've said. But there'll be a lot of free bets knocking about, money back guarantee, money back the horse comes second or third. I think the bookies are very good at that. But for me, I've got two. I've got my eye on. I've got obviously the second favourite, Meteor, Fry, 11-2. You know, it won last time out at Sandown. It's got a good sort of it's got a good sort of pedigree and it's won its last three. Interesting, you sort of say on the ages. The last 12 winners were all 5 or 6 year olds, so you can't really ignore that. Obviously, there's a £7 mares allowance as well. But for me, I'm going to go. You know, we like a diamond in the rough, and there's a horse coming from Ireland called Irascible, Henry de Bromhead. Now, last time I looked, it was 40-1. It's now backed into 20s. Obviously, got a bit about it. It was third at Leopardstown on the 7th of Feb, and the winner of that race is showing all the form, and it was second at Leopardstown as well. And it was third at 16-1. So obviously it's a bit of a diamond in the rough. But for me, I think I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming in sort of 10s, 12s, closer to the race. Given the volume of bets and given the form, obviously, in Ireland, I'm going to go for, if you were to push me on a tenner, I would have a £5 each way on Irascible. I've actually backed it anti-post at 40s, come into 20s. And it's rated 152, so it's no mug. I mean, it's got a good rating. So
152 run into that mark in most years in the Supreme, and perhaps maybe getting £3 to £5 improvement is gonna land you not pretty close. I think one thing with this race, and we're obviously forecast some rain over the coming week. We're recording this 6 days out. Obviously, do watch if there's a lot of rain coming in for someone that really likes it heavy. Yeah. One that I think perhaps, I know likes it on the softer and maybe touch firmer side, as well as if it's bottomless, would be another Henry de Bromhead horse who I don't know if he'll quite go ahead here, but Champagne Gold, who came second in an open hurdle race to very well fancied Drop the Anchor, who runs in the county later in the week. That would be a form line, obviously, for Drop the Anchor's form to notice how he runs here. So perhaps at 33-1, he would be able some value. I do myself have a bit of an anti-post nudge in this race, so I do have a considerable interest in Ballyadam, who I back in November at 18s, 16s, 14s and 12s. So I've got a few snips of
cheering him on, mate. You'll be riding him home.
Yeah, I'll be riding them home. It'll be me almost finished for the festival if Bally Adam comes in. I'm not quite sure, given he did get a sizable pasting from Appreciate It last time out and the time before that. But he's rated 154. The ground won't be a problem for him, and also he's won a Group 1 this season, so there's far more things to sniff at. I think we both do want to take on the favourite here.
I mean, it's good to see. It's good to see to take on the favourite.
Overall, that would be my assessment of Supreme. I will miss the Cheltenham Roar, which goes up at the start of that race every year. I've been there a couple of times myself. Watched Tour and another Willie Mullins train winner of that in Douvan over the years, and one of my favourite races of the festival. Great way to start.
No, it's a great sporting event, and then it leads us on to the next race on the card, the 155, the Sporting Life Arkle Challenge Trophy, won by last year's Supreme winner. Won by Put the Kettle On, but the Supreme winner is the favourite in that, Shishkin. It's 5-6, and that. You'd be tough ass to beat him on his day. Obviously won last year by a roughie on put the Kettle On the Bromhead, with Coleman on board, and then Fakar Didares was second, and then Rouge Vive was third. And 5-year-old plus 2 miler again, stiff 2 mile. I think obviously with so far out we can't really comment on the weather, but there is a storm this week, so obviously there is going to be a bit of rain on there. And for me, I'm obviously, if you watch Harv's tips before, obviously you're probably sick of watching it because you don't get many winners. But the only winners I do have, quite success on is a Skelton horse. Always trust the Skeltons, and for me, All Mankind I backed it at 15-2, now 13-2. Is my pick of the race. What about you, Rory?
I think this is probably one of the races of the week in terms of a real good trio heads up. A lot of pundits are talking about this being a straight shootout at the top of the market between Nicky's Shishkin, who was so impressive at winning the Supreme last year against a hard and Abracadabras in the second, and then Willie Mullins' kind of rising star Energamine. And then your own Britain's Hope here, All Mankind. Whilst obviously favouring a larger price, but I just can't see All Mankind winning this race, given his jump in it. Was it Wincanton or Taunton last time out? I think he's always going to be one that you watch from behind the couch, given he's quite strange into his fences. But I think if I was going to be having a bet in this race, I'd be looking at a reverse forecast between Energamine and Shishkin. I do think All Mankind will trump out in front and make sure that it's a good, honest race. People throw stones at the Shishkin form, and I think that's with good reason. He hasn't really beat anything this year. But that being said, he didn't really beat much when he ran in the Supreme last year, and he went and hosed in. He's obviously very well thought of at Nicky's, and he's thought of to be the next Altior. So for me, a small touch on the reverse forecast, which is one of my favourite betting styles at the Cheltenham Festival, but this is one that I think, as a racing fan, you can watch without having.
I mean, obviously, I've not gone heavy on All Mankind. I think I just like the price of Skeltons are on fire. They got a 19% strike rate in the last sort of couple of days. So, and then my outside bet, used to be Gordon Elliott trained horse, but we'll not go into that because I've already done a video on that. It's Felix de G. Again, I backed that at sort of 33s, 25s. I think you can ignore its last run out, and sort of if you're looking for value, obviously there's going to be value in there because Shishkin's already odds on in the market. So. And it wouldn't surprise me if Erdem really comes in as well. And I was just looking through the stats and trends, and Mullins and Henderson have won 7 of the last 9 of this race. So it makes sense that they're at the top of the market. So it's going to be a tough one to budge them two at the top. Obviously, I'm going through All Mankind, more not of a blind punt, but I just think that if it goes at a gallop and you can can get a bit of a lead on and coming down that hill, you've always got to shout. You know you'll get an honest race out of All Mankind. It's just like you said, whether he jumps. But if it was easy, would be millionaires. So that's my sort of tip. So I've gone All Mankind and Felix de G, and obviously yourself. You've done your reverse at the top of the market. Yeah. So we'll move on to the Ultima. I personally haven't had a look in too much detail into this. Personally, it's not something that I'll be betting on. I think there's 70 declared runners at the minute for it. I just there's nothing really that jumps out at me, given it's an absolute bum fight. I think the top of the market's 6-1 with Happy Go Lucky. You've got Cloth Cap in there, whether he'll run or not.
I doubt it. I think Happy Go. I can't quite work out why Happy Go Lucky is as short as he is. I know this race tends to favour a progressive chaser, won by the conditional last year. Sadly, no longer with us. But I can see why, as a progressive horse, he has a profile. But there must be some serious money knocking around to not. And as you said, it's a bit of a cavalry charge here, and 6-1 certainly far smaller than I'd be getting involved. Yeah. I think if I was going to be having a look at the race, and it's not one that I'd have a massive opinion on. I think in the same colours as your favoured Native River, trained by David Pipe, though. The remastered won very well last time out. It's clearly on the up too. The other thing that I would also be keen to have a look at would be Milan Native. So Gordon Elliott's horse. It's just, and this would be more of what we can do here as a back to lay. So back him at a price that he is at now at 16-1, and of the opinion that he'll come in on the exchange. Probably I'd have thought he'll go off around 10s, given that he actually has won at the Cheltenham Festival before, and that's normally something that your punter will latch onto in the days coming up after deck. So perhaps if he was going to be pushed, I'd say back Milan Native at 16s, and then maybe lay him back out and running if he gets into the high single figures. But again, I'm with you. It's there's a lot of entries in there. I'd love to see Cloth Cat run. I don't think that's a reality. Cocoa Beach might be another one to take a look at as well. But again, before the decks come out, not one to take a huge opinion.
Yeah, on. I mean the other roughie, obviously we're just running through the card and sort of giving someone a hint to sort of have a look. It is Lakeview Lad. Now you can ignore his last 2 runs. He came 5th, but he won a very competitive race at Aintree on heavy in the Many Clouds Chase. Now he beat Santini and Native River and Frodon that day. But then he's just sort of not backed it up. But he's won on heavy ground, and if I was a punter that was having a good interest on, I'd be doing the rain dance for that, because that form is solid form, if you ask me. He's a progressive horse. He's won on heavy in 3 mile, and obviously given his last 2 runs, his price is at 20s, but if you're looking just to have a bit of an each way bet, I think Lakeview Lad, you'd be hard to not get a good run out of him. Personally, I don't know.
He's finished third. He's finished third in the race before, and that was off. That was off only £2. That was only off £2 lower. Beaten by Beware the Bear that day. I think the form of, when you say out loud, he's beat Santini, he's beat Frodon, and you think, Jesus Christ, like how's this lad running in the Ultimate? I think the other thing, he did run at the weekend in that Premier Chase at Kelso, so perhaps might not turn up as much as I'd love him to. That race at Aintree, I do believe it was kind of in November time. We had the low sun. We had those weeks in which they were turning 3 mile chases into 3 mile bumpers for 10-year-olds, because they're hardly going over any obstacles. But yeah, I certainly would be doing the rain dance, and I'd want to be seeing him turn up, because I do think he's a great horse. Also, from a yard with Alexander's, it's not always fighting at the top table on these graded levels. Yeah. It's always nice to see the small trainers get a go.
And a stat to look at is the last 9 winners have carried between 10-6 and 11-8. So if you're worrying about the weights, anything over well, I mean, lately you lads are pound over, so but that if you're looking at trends, your Clondor Castle carrying 11-12,
he's out.
Yeah, you want to scratch that off, and then we move to your favourite race of the day, and not really, the Unibet Champion Hurdle Challenge Trophy. The winner gets 189 grand. It's not bad for a day's work, is it, Mr. Miller?
No, I wish I was earning that.
Yeah, I wouldn't moan for a horse going over obstacles and getting 189 grand in winnings. Now, obviously, the headline act. Obviously, there'll be a bit of a narrative. Honeysuckle, the Bromhead now firmly in charge of that. For me, it hosed up last time out. It was a brilliant ride, brilliant race in Ireland on that Sunday on ITV. 9-4, you've got Epatante at 7-2 currently in Goshen at 4-1 at your top three of the market. Now, obviously, you can't ignore Honeysuckle given the form it's showing. It's a bit of a machine. Now it gets a £7 mare's allowance, which obviously is going to be contentious. Yeah, it definitely helps. Getting £7 off your nearest and dearest. Obviously, Epatant for Henderson, but for me, I'm going to go for Abracadabra. I think I got it this morning at 12-1, 10-1 currently. Gordon Elliott trained, but obviously Gordon Elliott's in the bad book, so he's not going to be training that on the card. And I just like the form. I can't remember the exact race it won. It came second in, but I do remember it beat some. It got beat by some good horses. I'm just going to bear with me.
He got smashed up 10 lengths by your top of the market there, Harv. Do you think you can reverse 10 lengths smashing a Honeysuckle?
Yeah, mate. I do remember that now. I'm just loading up. So yeah, it got done. Yeah, it got done on the 6th of Feb. It won at Punchestown in November.
Yeah, beat Saint-Loire.
Yeah, at 13-8. And then it came 5th in December. And then obviously, like you said, it got a bit of a hounding by the top of the market. But I don't know. I just fancy.
I think there's far worse horses you could back there. I think you can almost put that run at Christmas behind him. Gordon had hardly any runners over the Christmas period, and I do believe Abracadabra had a dirty scope, meaning when they examined the horse's kind of airway after the race, just found to have some kind of infection or cough or blockage in there. I think, he did finish. I think Cheltenham brings out the best in him, particularly in what hopefully, if we're looking at the pace angles to the race, there's quite a few here that are going to go forward and make sure that it's well run.
Yeah, it's going to go off like the clappers, isn't it?
Going to go off like the clappers in Silver Streak, and Abracadabra that sort of run should favour him. I think that's why, in honesty, I'd be against Honeysuckle. Now, it is quite hard to be against a horse which is won up the course at the festival in the mare's chase in the mare's hurdle last year, and has also literally never been beat. But I actually think her undoing is coming. While she does have 2 Group 1 successes at 2 miles, including that defeat of Abracadabra, so I don't think she's quick enough to win at Cheltenham on the new course. Is it the new course or the old course? Mind blank.
It's the old course. It's on the old course. Yeah.
Old course favours speed. New course favours favours stamina. New course is the first 2 days. Old course. Sorry, other way around. First 2 days is one. The second 2 is the other. But I would actually. I do think that Epatante, if we can forgive her last run, she puts together that level of form, which is probably kind of a 160, 163, 164 plus or 7 to 170. I think she'll take the world of beating. I do think obviously she's going to be there or thereabouts, so I'd play the reverse there again with Honeysuckle and Epatante. But I'd make the case for Aspire Tower. Aspire Tower sat anywhere between 14s and 20s on the various different bookmakers. He's beat Abracadabra, who's less in price, in only one of 2 runs this season. Now, he ran in the juveniles race, which is for 4-year-olds last year, so we'll expect him to come on a bunch for being a 5-year-old. And I can see him got beat by Sharjah in a Group 1 at Christmas. But I have to say, Aspire Tower is a lot to like about that price.
It's a nice price as well, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll have a little tickle, as we say. on Aspire Tower each way, but top of the market reverser again for me.
Yeah, and I knew I'd seen Abracadabra's form, obviously to Honeysuckle, but it came second to Shishkin in the Supreme last year, and that's why I remember seeing it. It has, obviously Shishkin. The notes on that race was Shishkin would have won by further if it had a clean race, but this is Cheltenham, and you don't get a box seat ride. Obviously famously even Goshen in this race as well, winning by a mile and falls on the last. It's not. The crowd will see whether the crowd will play a part, obviously, but
where would you have Goshen, Harv? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in it. I think it'll be
good, yeah.
I think it'll be well back just because obviously the name and people will just go after it. But for me, I want to find I want 4-1. I won't be backing it, and I think that actually 4-1's a ridiculous price given that Honeysuckle's 9-4 and Epitant's 7-2. I think the bookies have been very tight on that. I think given it's it won last time out, but it's jumping, it's all around game is just at 4-1. You're struggling there. I think you're looking for value, like you said, on Aspire Tower or Abracadabras at 10-1. Or probably on the day it'll probably drift out a little bit more if people really go into Honeysuckle or Epitant. I think the bookies might just make it a bit more generous, sort of lower down the market. But we'll see. That. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if there's loads of favourites banging in, like a couple of years ago, then there will be some value out there. So we move on to the 20-4, the Close Brothers Mares Hurdle. A great sort of race for the mares. The pinnacle of racing. Honeysuckle won it last time, turning over the 4-6 favourite Benny's de Deux. And for me, I don't really have a keen interest in this race. I'm not that fussed. Obviously, Concertina, Benny's de Deux and Honeysuckle, if she runs, will be in the top of the market. I personally like Roxana. Skelton's in a good vein of form. Won last time out at Ascot, I believe. And, you get a good, honest clip out of Roxana. And, it just depends on who's declared on the day.
Yeah, I think Roxana's a great horse. She's always going to try her heart out for your favourite trainers and Skeltons. I wonder if 2 mile 4 might be a bit short for her. But my bet in the race, I'm quite happy with this one actually, is horse by the name of Manila Melody. She's only finished out with the first two on one occasion, which was back in the Mares Novice Hurdle at Cheltenham last year, which just totally blew up and didn't run in her favour. I think we can forgive her that one run. It's happened to similar horses like Epitante, who've then gone on to win champion hurdles and such. Yeah. She's also more than double the price of Black Tears, who she actually absolutely smashed up 2 starts ago. And I'd much rather have her running for me at 25-1 than Concertista at even money. Running into a place, obviously, your 25s is paying out more than her to win. Manila Melody, one of my bets of the week, in fact.
Bets of the week. You've heard it here first. Rory's bet of the week, or one of them. Your roughie, your diamond in the rough. To Bromhead's Manila Melody, and for me, I think I'd have a little bet on Roxana Manila Melody reverse, or even any order tri-cast with Concertina, also Concertia. I think that would be, obviously you can't ignore Great White Shark, but it flat to deceive last time out. So Manila Melody for Mr. Miller and Roxana for me, and a bit of an each way, all angles for the favourite with Roxana and Manila Melody. I think you'd be in with a squeaker, some prize money there. And then I'm not too fussed on the Fred Winter. I don't think it's a great race.
I don't think I've ever even picked one to come in the first 5 in the 15 years I've been following racing. The only one I've got is one sentence, and that's Hell Red was very well liked by the Nichols Yard at the start of the year and won well on his debut at Chepstow. He's not done well after that, but he's been favourite both times he's been beat. So must be showing them something at home. But no viewpoint from me, Harv.
Yeah, and obviously Quilikios, if it runs in that, will go off near enough favourite, and sort of Saint Sam, they're sort of the market. But yeah, I don't have a great viewpoint on that, and I think there's enough racing to go out that day where you don't really need to be backing unless you just want to back every race, and then. The National Hunt Chase, again, 43 runners declared as of the day of recording. You've got Royal Pagley at the top of the market, 6-4. You've got the hot Irish contender, Galvin, who's been talked up a lot. There's a lot of hype out of Ireland over Galvin. You can't ignore its form. It's won its last 4. And for me, I'm going to go for a bit of, not a big outsider. I've got Longhouse Poet. I like to give a smaller trainer a bit of probs, and I think Martin Brassel's got this in good form. It won last time out, and for me, I think you're going to have to take on a favourite 1 or 2 times in the festival, and I think that this is the one for me in this race where I just think that given the form, given it's not going to be hyped up as much because it's from a smaller yard, it won really well in Punchestown last time out, and you can't really ignore the Irish form. It beat some average horse. It beat some okay horses, but it won by a length and a half against the Gordon Elliott Run Wild Fred and the big dog. So you can't really ignore that. And 10-3 it won last time out. So again, it's not really been hyped up, and it goes about its business quite nicely. I don't know if you have a view on the race.
I don't have any strong view other than I think it's a shame that the National Hunt Chase occasionally has some amateur riders in because the COVID restrictions don't have any of that at Cheltenham, which I think is a real shame. It's also dropped in trip from after a couple of years ago. There was a pretty punishing renewal of this race at 4 miles, so it's lost that being a real stamina test, which is what I like to see. I think Royal Pagaille should be running in the Gold Cup, not in this. He's rated 156 and clearly on the up despite being a novice. If I was Rich Ritchie and I had a few hundred million in the bank and I hadn't won the Gold Cup, and you've got Monkfish, who I'm sure we're going to come on to, will be running in the Gold Cup next year. I'd be running in there. But other than that, I think Longhouse Poet's as good as pick as any, mate. And actually, I will join you on that Martin Brassel train. He'll get home having won a 3 mile. Well, you don't know, but you've got a very good idea. He'll get home having won in a real stamina test at Punchestown when he went over there. And good way to round off the festival in the New Look Tuesday after it's all been kind of moved around.
Yeah, and an 8-1 winner would be a lovely touch. So we move on to the second part of the show. We go on to the Ballymore Novice Hurdle on the Wednesday. And for me, we just look at who won it last time. A little known horse called Envoy Allen, and a little no longer with us actually. Yeah. And a horse that came second that's no longer with us, Easy Work, unfortunately had an accident on the gallops. And another small name in the racing world, the Big Getaway. So Ballymore Novices has got a bit of form. These horses that win it usually go on to bigger and better things. And we look at the top of the market is the Brave Man's Game, Mr. Nichols. We haven't mentioned him yet. But by all accounts, Nichols is bringing a big old string onto Cheltenham and he's going to take on the Irish. And obviously, I'd like to see him do well because he's one of the good guys in racing. We've got Appreciate It, the second favourite, whether he runs in this or not. And then Meteor, again, 10-1. Whether he runs in that, I don't think he will. But for me, I've gone for a bit of an outside punt to start your day off. It's Mr. Mullins' Jungle Boogie. That is the horse that I have circled. It came first at Punchestown out of 20 horses after a 94-day break. So it's going to be ready to go, mate.
Yeah, I'm absolutely joining you on Jungle Boogie at 40-1. He won his last race by 30 lengths. He's obviously got a lot to find at those at the top of the market with Gerd de Monsieur and Bob Ollinger, but I think 40-1. Willie obviously, Willie loves every race at Cheltenham. He wins them all, doesn't he? But I mean, he knows how to train the winner of a Ballymore, having won this with Faheen previously in the past. And I think you're looking for him to come on leaps and bounds. He didn't beat much that day, but hosing in by 30 lengths on the bridle is good for me. So he'd be another one of my each way bets of the week. But one of my top bets of the week on the nose at a shorter price, you could probably only get about threes at time of recording, would be Henry and the Rob Corrow and Bob Ollinger. Set some very impressive. I'm not a big speed figures man, but set some very impressive figures on the clock when defeating Blue Lord in the Lawlers of Naas hurdle in Ireland a month or so ago. I think he'll take all the world of beating, but Ballymore is always a thriller and normally brings forward some forces for the future to watch. That's for certain.
Yeah, and just at the speed figures, I mean, I've just got the last year's result, and the time was 5 minutes and 19 seconds. So, I mean, they're going a fairly stiff gallop for 2 mile 5. And I think this is where me and you on the Tuesday night get the old voodoo magic out and do a bit of a rain dance, because Jungle Boogie's won on heavy last 2 times. So we could do with an almighty downpour to start the day on Wednesday, and I think you'll be out in the street giving it a bit of the big, and if that wins at 40-1, mate. Shame that no booze is open, but that'll be start the day off lovely. And we move on to a race that I'm really not that bothered about, mate. I'll be honest. The RSA Novices Chase. Champ won it last time out. Melilla Endo second, and Aluho, the 5-2 favourite, got turned over in third. But for me, I'm not bothered about Monkfish at 8-11. Obviously, if you want to build a Yankee on the day, fair enough. Have Monkfish, but that would be my only advice. Is if you want to build a Yankee and you want a dead cert on the festival, Monkfish is probably your horse.
Monkfish is as close as you're going to get to a banker of the week. I don't really believe in when people call things bankers, because so much can happen in horse racing. I was stood at the last fence when Annie Power fell over back in, was it 2015? So I don't think banker is an appropriate word, but he's as close as you'll get. He jumps like a stag. He's got stamina for days, and he's got pace to finish. Nothing's even come close to him over fences, and I think he's an absolute certainty in this.
Yeah, and obviously, if you want to look at some value, fair enough. But I'm not going to waste my time telling you to have a look around. If it loses, that's a massive upset.
The only one for me would be the other Willie and the Irishman, and have a bit of a history of things coming in that are the second choice of the stable. Willie's got another one in there that I like called Corrivi, but the favourites. This is another one of those ones you don't have any money on to enjoy this. This is watching the glory of this lad.
Yeah. I mean, this is as close as you'll get to a Rolls Royce all week, I think. Corrivi, actually. Am I correct in saying that McCoy has some sort of interest in Corrivi, or helps the yard Corrivi?
I wouldn't know, mate. I know it's owned by Mrs. Flynn, but he might well have some kind of connection to the horse.
I can't remember the exact thing, but I know. Obviously, McCoy's a big fan of Corrivi, but hell, I mean, it's going to be sleeping on a lot of punters in the market if that wins. And then we move on to the Coral Cup, Grade 3 Coral Cup Hurdle. So only one of the last 12 winners of this has been favourites, and that was last year with Dame de Campagne. Black Tears came second, and 12-1, and their days are gone, came third. The race was run. So the notes for there was the race was run at an unusually steady pace last year. So it was five 5 minutes 25 seconds for 2 miles, which 2 miles 5, which is obviously it's on the slower side. I can't remember what the weather was like that day, but it looks good on my notes. For me, I don't really have an interest in this race. I think if Great White Shark runs, I think that's always worth a backing each way at 14s. And obviously, whether or not Botox has runs for Gary Moore, I think that's another good sort of shout each way. I think you can't really look at the top of the market at 6-1. Grand Rui does the trend break again for 2 years in a row, and a favourite wins it. Gordon Elliott trained, well, obviously, I'm just going to say Gordon Elliott because it still is. This close to the festival, he's at the top of the market. But for me, I'd be looking at sort of a Great White Shark, see what the price is nearer to the festival, or a sort of Botox has.
For this card, I think for this race on the card, the handicaps of the horses are given their weights, and then when the Irish horses come over, a lot of the time they'll end up going up in the weights a little bit due to the British handicapper thinks they're undervalued across the Irish Sea, which is patent. So that's where most of the good horses are, unfortunately for us watchers in the UK. But I think one to watch out for you can find in the card, and there wasn't anything jumping out to me other than the Murano and Grand Noir at the top of the market. Looks like a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. Would be what's the handicapper not put a load on and coming over? Maybe what's been what's gone under the radar there. That might be a way into the race, but
wide receiver
for me.
Wide receiver carrying 10-7, or you look at maybe another sort of Esky Lane at 6-10. There's a few.
His handicap, his mark's quite low. He's got a 0 there from running way behind. Appreciate it, and you can be forgiven that, given he's probably an even money favourite for the Supreme Novices. So you could look at him, but a watching race for me, not a betting race.
Yeah, and I'm just quickly seeing the price of a horse in here. Bear with me. Skelton's got a runner in here, and I'm just looking at his best price at the minute. It's looking around sort of 20-1, but it's carrying 10, so it's on the lighter side. And it ran at Kempton, came 5th in an average handicap. I'm just trying to see who won that day, but it fell on its other appearance. So I don't know. You need someone that can jump round Cheltenham. So it came 5th. Hometown Boy won it. So you can sort of maybe just have a watch and brief on that. It was carrying 11-3 that day, so it's been very fairly done to by the handicapper for this. Whether Skelton squeaks up for a place, I don't know. But that's the Coral Cup, really. Rambling on a bit, but I can't really find any value in that race.
Nothing for me
now, nothing for you. Now we go to the Queen Mother Champion Chase, Meghan Markle's favourite race. We've got Chachan Poursuur at the top of the market, odds on. We've got the famous Altior at 6-1. We've got Prolitolog at 8-1 for Monsieur Nichols, and my bet in this is the Skelton Nube Negra. I really fancy it. I like the form, and it won last time out, which is always a bonus. Now, interestingly enough, put the kettle on is 10-1 in this, Monsieur de Bronhead. What are your thoughts?
I think on this race, I like your pick in Nube Negra. I do wonder if you're fucking sponsored by the Skelton team sometimes for the amount of horses that you put up on there. Obviously, he beat out. I mean, there's worse stables to be a fan of. That's for certain.
Yeah, man.
He beat a Will thing Altior at Kenton last time, and he won that on the bridle. He looked really impressive. So I actually saw him run way back in 2017 at Cheltenham as a 3-year-old. I can't believe he's only 7. He seems to have been around forever. But this is another race for me that's dominated by a Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie owned favourite. I think if you were going to double Monkfish and Shakan on the day, if you're one of those sorts, I wouldn't really put you off. Shakan's the highest rated horse in training, and you see the one vulnerability here is that he's never actually made it to a Cheltenham Festival race. He's either been injured or diverted elsewhere. So we've no idea if he likes the track or not. He should be good enough that you shouldn't mind anything.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't, mate. I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, I'd be surprised too. So I'm looking at something else. Going through, Rugvif has won a Group 2, first time out this season in the Schleyer Chase at Cheltenham, and won't really mind the ground. But other than that, I think Nube, perhaps a Nube Negra Chacun pour Soi Reversa could be in order here. Altior, I'll just put something out. Altior, I think, is he's a horse that a horse I absolutely love. I think he's bags of ability, tries his absolute heart out after that last every year. I was there every single time he won at the festival. It's a shame to see him not run into his best now. And to be honest, I'd be quite happy if they put him to the paddock and eat grass for the rest of his life, because he's 4 times the Cheltenham winner.
He doesn't know the sport of penny, does he?
Doesn't know any of us anything. No. So I've got a real fear that, obviously he might pick up an injury or something might happen. I'd be quite happy to see him eat grass for the rest of his days, to be honest.
No, I agree, and obviously Skelton rode for Nichols on Prolitalog, who won it last year at 6-1, and it was 4 minutes 10 the time. But I just think that it's going to be interesting if Nube absolutely goes off like a cat on an opt-in roof, mate. I think whoever's riding on Chanson will be staring at Mr. Skelton's arse for half the race, and we'll see if the hype's real. It's only gone up at sort of 10 in the weight, so it's not really, obviously it's put the kettle on's 11.3, but everyone else is 11.10. So yeah, I don't know. That's my pick. Obviously another great race to watch. The cross country. A
barnstormer always, isn't it?
Yeah, the Easy Lands won it last time out. Tiger Roll ain't going to be running in that, is he? Let's be honest. 5-1, even though it is declared. 22 runners, 32 jumps and 3 mile 6. So it's a real test of jumping. For me, I'd be going for Lord de Menseal, Richard Hobson. That's who I would sort of be having a bet on if I was to have a look, but I don't really have a keen interest in the race. I just prefer to watch it. The headline here is 11 of the last 12 winners have been aged 8 or older. 9 out of the 12 winners were in the top 3 of the betting.
Okay. I think you'd be hard pressed to look past Easy Land. He's only been out once this season, though, which is a little bit of a concern. I backed him anti-post a while ago, but I'm not that happy with the docket, to be honest. And he did come fourth over this course in distance back at the Open meeting, but he was running off like 11-12 with horses that he's even weight with now, and they were getting 8.5 stone. So he's got a new jockey. He's actually got an interesting one. This race is done over hurdles, banks, fences,
everything,
trees. Like it's a licorice all sorts. It's always good fun. Obviously, Tiger's had his fun in this race over the time. There's actually a British born and British jockey being booked for this, coming over from France. Which is interesting. He's got only 2 rides on the week. One of them's Easy Land. I mean, he's a favourite, so you thought he'd win, but I think he'll win. I mean, he could end up being like a real performer in this division for years to come. It's very Francais to have a horse of such talents doing this sort of gig. We'd have him in the Gold Cup, but my one for the one here would be pick someone at a larger price. The bookies are normally out at six places or something here, so pick something at a larger price. Kingswell Theatre's won at course and distance, so he likes it around there. But
25
it's a bit of fun to watch, and a bit of fun roulette with 4 legs. I think. It
is a good spectacle. For me, Lord de Menseal beat Potter's Corner quite comfortably in the last sort of race, and Potter's Corner is tighter in the market than Lord de Menseal for some reason. But for me, I think that Lord de Menseal at 10-1 is it should sort of get you some prize money back. So we move on to the Johnny Henderson Close Brothers Handicap Chase. That's some name to also known as the Juvenile Novice Handicap hurdle.
I thought the next on the card was the Grand Annual, mate, on the Wednesday. I think you've jumped.
Sorry. I've gone one earlier. Where have I
Don't
gone?
worry. The Grand Annual's a 2 mile race or a couple of yards under. Ran as a handicap chase, so they'll be flying into these fences. It's the same course and distance as both the Champion Chase and the Arkle earlier in the card. For me, I have backed him on the Get the Collection out at a remarkable 20-1. The handicapper's been kind at 10 stone 10, and he's only in, and he's come all the way into sevens. But one of my bets of the week, maybe in our on the nose Yankee for the first 2 days, would be Embittered of the ever talented Joey Patrick O'Brien. Be interesting to see who jocks up there. But I think his fourth in his last run at Leopardstown behind the Nergamane hopefully will get franked by a strong performance by that horse in the Arkle earlier on the card, as well as behind some good sorts with Felix Degi, Darver Star, and Franco Deport. I think he's not had terribly many runs over. This will be his first run over. His fifth run, over fences, and I think there's still a little bit more improvement to come, given his hurdle mark was 1:46, and he ran very creditably to come third on over 2 miles in hurdles at the festival last year. I think he's a real short and a fantastic bet at 7-1. So he'll be he's the one for me. What about yourself, Harv?
In which race is this? Sorry, mate. The Grand Annual.
Grand Annual, the penultimate one on the Wednesday.
Yes, that's running at 4:15 now, I think. Yeah. Let me just get my notes up. Sorry, it's all gone wrong on the old spreadsheet. It's all gone wrong, mate.
Don't worry, I'll go wrong at the bookies next week, mate. So it may as well start going wrong now.
It's the start as you mean to go on, mate. I've got us and them as an outsider bet. I don't know why that's starred in my book, to be honest. But I wouldn't be backing anything other than Embittered based on what you said, mate, because I'm going to follow you there. I'll take the easy option there, but for some reason I've got an outsider starred, but I don't know why. So we'll not mislead the public any more than we do. So we move on to the Weatherby's Champion Bumper. Are we back on track now? Yeah.
Yeah, we are. So the bumper is otherwise known as a National Hunt Flat Race, which is the only race of the week which is not over obstacles. It's typically for 4 or 5 year olds ran over 2 miles. I won't get on my soapbox too much, but I don't think a bumper belongs at the Cheltenham Festival. I think the festival should be the pinnacle of the sport, and these young lads and lasses are just getting started as horses. They're barely in national hunt terms, they're barely broken in, and it's part of my issue with the programming book is that you can basically you've got horses like Champ who are going to be 9-10 years old before they get into an open company race at the festival. I think we need to do something about that. But anyway, Harv, I know you've got a fancy here at a bit of a shorter price.
The Sir Gelhard for me. At 2-1.
Recent recruit to Willie Mullins after naughty boy Gordon Elliott.
Yeah, I think Mullins has won this. Well, Mullins had first and second. The famous Appreciate It was 15-8. Came second last time in this. Fernie Hollow won the race last year. The trend says 11 of the last 12 winners are aged 5 to 6. Q Card was the only 4-year-old to win this in the last 12 years. And only 2 of the last 12 winners were favourites. And 2 of the last 12 winners had at least one previous run at Cheltenham. So, interesting enough, 7 of the last 12 winners were Irish trained. So, hence why I fancy the second favourite in this, Gerard.
I couldn't put you off. Ran very well in his other bumper starts. Familiar colours, that of Envoy Allen, who won the race last year.
Yeah.
And I do believe Fernie Hollow he's a Cheveley Park stud horse. I think I might be wrong there. I
is bang on.
Off. I know Kill Recruit, who's the favourite here, owned by Miss Materson, trained by Willie. It looked like 12 lengths clear when winning at Leopardstown, but I'm actually going to throw some stones at that form. It wasn't impressive on the clock that day, as well as the race kind of fell apart behind. So I actually would have Sir Gerhard as the favourite here if I was going to be drawing up my book. So I wouldn't put you off. My only my only kind of thought in the race would be to, and it's very minor, would be to Gold Bullion, trained by Paul Nichols and owned by Malcolm Denmark. Tipped up one of his horses in the Ballymore Jungle Boogie. He buys very high quality horses. This lad cost €90,000 by Fame and Glory into a Robin Deschamps mare. So outstanding pedigree, a pedigree you'd normally see running potentially on the flats. Owned by Malcolm Denmark, who likes to breed stayers who are big, strong horses. So one actually I would advise if the ITV cameras are floating around is have a look in the paddock for this one. If you can see a horse that looks a little bit more further developed and on than others, perhaps that they might be worth a flutter. But I'll have to see what Gold Bullion looks like in the paddock. But yeah, I think that's me for the race. I think is that us 2 days, Harv?
Yeah, unfortunately, the last race isn't on ITV. It's on Racing UK, but I won't be paying my money for Racing UK. If I want to watch it, I'll put £1 on just to watch it. But it's interesting you say that there's some expensive horses running in the Champions Bumper, and Sir Gerard was bought for 400 grand after his point success. So I mean, I'm just reading up more on his form. Just because I think that's my bet of the day on the Wednesday, and it's won by a combined distance of 18.5 lengths in its last two. Last two races.
He's certainly a good horse. At Cheveley Park, like back the NYLN was 400 grand as well. They buy these horses like they've still got the fucking bollocks on. It's like they think they can make a stud out of them. You've got the earnings by Star cost less than that at book 2 and book 1 at Tattersalls. It's absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, well, it's good for the sport though, because it keeps whether horse prices are probably a conversation for another day, but I think a lot of the time they're bought on reputation or just bought so no one else can buy them. And I think a 400 grand horse running in a 31 grand prize pot, you want a bit of an ROI on the day out, don't you? I don't think that'll buy one of its hooves at 400 grand, but at 2 to 1, I think it's a nice price. And I think that's us for the first 2 days, Rory. And what we'll do is next episode we'll have a look at the Thursday, Friday, obviously the Biggie Gold Cup, and then just try and pick an each way Yankee of 4 roughies, 2 each, and 2 favourite, two certs, or your bankers, as you don't like saying. But yeah, I think that's how it goes. But no, I hope you got a lot out of this. Obviously, caveat that we're just 2 casual punters. We don't profess to be any sort of expert, and we like the sport. And I think that there's a lot of people that try and charge too much money for tipping. I don't think that's ethical, because it's been seen as a get-rich-quick scheme. I think over time you'll never win money. But you do it for an interest in the sport and something to watch. So yeah, that's about all I can say.
I would just take my time to echo that. I absolutely, and have grown up loving horse racing. A lot of these races, I won't be having a bet, or if I'm having a bet, I'm quite happy with £1 each way. Please don't.
Yeah.
I think that we need to do well, particularly as young guys. I think we probably know we both heard some terrible stories about lads and lasses getting into a terrible state. Please, everyone, keep it sensible. I know it's great and you might get the rush, but I'm really excited to watch a phenomenal week's racing. I booked the half days off work, so
right.
I can make sure.
So there's not going to be a lot of productivity knocking about in Mr. Miller's Towers next week, is there?
There'll be those half days in the mornings, Harvey. I'll be absolutely on it like a car bonnet.
The hardest half days you've ever worked, mate.
Exactly, mate. Right, thanks for having me on, Harv.
No worries, mate. All the best. God bless, and we'll be back for more.
See you soon.